Hello everybody, welcome to Saturday at Sakhir and welcome to the Sakhir Grand Prix. Don't tell anyone, it's just Bahrain 2, okay? We're still in Bahrain, but we're calling it Sakhir because, you know, that's what happens with the second races in the same location. We tend to go on the region's name, and while Bahrain is a small island, the Kingdom of Bahrain, this is the region, the Sakhir region, famous for the Bahrain University. And I believe there's a zoo around here somewhere as well. And also, it's the region where the circuit is. So it's the Bahrain International Circuit in Sakhir, the Sakhir Grand Prix, and where we have seen Valtteri Bottas qualify on pole position, his 16th pole position. And well, it's different, isn't it? We normally see this sign sort of hung over the entry to the pit lane, as it is now, although it's resting on that big sort of black scaffold, or scaffold covered in black cloth, with Lewis Hamilton, 98th pole position. But, as you know, he's not here. And that really dominated. I was going to start by telling you, what the last few days have been like. And it was really dominated by the news we got on Tuesday morning that Lewis had tested positive for COVID-19. I mean, Monday was a rest day, really, a rest day on the tour. Everyone was, taking stock of the Grosjean crash, and more and more details were coming out. The speed at which he hit the barrier, 137 miles an hour. Just think about that. Think of the fastest you've ever been on a motorway, and then get up to 137 miles an hour, and that's the speed he hit the barrier. Incredible, horrifying. And the peak loading. 53G against a barrier just like that one, steel Armco barrier, 53 times normal gravity that you or I would see. We exert 1G, don't we, on Earth? If you're lucky, well, if you're not lucky, might get to 2G or 3G on a roller coaster, or 4G, and you really feel it. Or if a plane gets a bit of negative G, you might get negative G, and it's pretty uncomfortable. 3 or 4G. 53G. Oi. So we spent, as I say, Monday sort of digesting the Grosjean story and seeing him, from his bed in hospital. And wasn't that great to see him with his, hands bandaged, essentially saying, okay. Hello, Shove. That was quick. Ricky, well done on pole. Bono, well done second. It was blue T-shirt, Bottas engineer. Orange, green T-shirt, Russell's engineer. And didn't Bono do well, Pete Bonington, by not saying, okay, Lewis, on the radio once. And then on Tuesday, there was a bit of filming that Craig Slater was doing, and we went with him at the Royal Bahrain Golf Club. And on the way there, we got the news that Lewis Hamilton had tested positive for COVID-19 in his Sunday test, and that he wouldn't be, obviously, competing at the second Grand Prix in Bahrain, the Sakhir Grand Prix. And was it more shocking than the positive tests of Stroll and Perez? I think it was, because A, he's the world champion, and B, he's one of the more vocal drivers on warning everybody about trying to be safe. Stay safe. Everybody, this is a nasty virus, and you don't want to get it if you can possibly do it, and wear your mask and try and be safe. And maybe that was the shock about it, is that, he was clearly so vociferous in about that. And it partly explains why we all wear these masks. And unless you're jogging, where a mask is probably not a great thing you want to be wearing, or even warming up to go for a jog, I interviewed Lewis on Thursday, for example, but we kept a 2-meter distance, and we were both wearing masks, and that means that, he didn't pass it on to anybody. He didn't pass it on to Peter Bonington, his engineer. He didn't, as you can tell, he's out here. He didn't pass it on to any of his crew. And so that was, we did the usual Sky Sports News things on Tuesday, and we're sort of digesting the information. Lewis, as for his condition, I'll get onto in a minute, but such is the way of Formula One that I felt it was all sort of forgotten quite quickly. And I'm sort of playing in my own mind whether this was a little bit sort of disrespectful. We go on as media and everybody else goes on for the whole season about, Lewis Hamilton, he's a 7-time world champion and all of that. And the moment he's gets COVID-19, it's like, okay, Lewis Hamilton's out. And, let's talk about the next big thing. You know, who's his replacement? Who's his replacement? It's always the way in Formula One, isn't it? People never sort of stop to acknowledge the gravity of something. They always want to know what the big next thing is. So, will it be George? Oh, I hear Stoffel's coming in. It's like, well, hang on. Let's take a moment to just wish him well. You know, hope you're okay, Lewis. It's just a human thing to do. I felt it was a very sort of Formula One-y reaction, just to say, oh, right, he's got COVID, has he? Oh, right, okay, never mind about that. Let's move it on to who's going to replace him. Anyway, just a little thought I had in my head. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't. But in any case, how is he? Well, on the physical side, we understand from his Mercedes team that he's not asymptomatic, so he is symptomatic. He's got symptoms, he's got COVID, they say, and he's nothing concerning, nothing for us to be worried about. He's not in hospital or anything, he's in his hotel room, but he's feeling pretty ropey with the virus. He's in the best of hands. He's not, you know, with doctors or in a hospital or anything like that, but there is the team doctor who's looking after him when he needs it, and his physio, Angela Cullen, of course, is looking after him if he needs it, clearly from a distance because he's isolating in his hotel room, but he's feeling pretty ropey. So, you know, we can all wish our best wishes to him for a speedy recovery, as we would do to anyone. And mentally, apparently, he's pretty cheesed off. He's pretty cheesed off and disappointed, gutted, he said. Devastated was a word he also said, to be missing his first Grand Prix since his Formula One. He started in this Formula One lark at the beginning of 2007 with McLaren. And the first Grand Prix he's missing with his Mercedes team for 7 years, over 7 years, since the beginning of 2013. So no wonder he's cheesed off, because this is his life. This is his happy place. As he says himself, when he's in the paddock, when he's racing, when he's in the car, it's his happy place. And, you know, we can all understand that. Is he going to be doing Abu Dhabi? Actually, before we think about that, will his cheesed offness be exacerbated by the fact that Mercedes went straight for George Russell and put him in the car rather than old reliable Stoffel Van Dorn, who, with the greatest respect to Stoffel Van Dorn, Lewis Hamilton might not have considered was a threat to his seat in the future? Well, I'll leave you that for you to decide. How would you feel if you were Lewis Hamilton? Even though I'm sure you'd be secure in the knowledge that you're the best in the world, the most successful driver of all time, statistically, would you feel, oh, right, thanks very much, Mercedes. You know, I get COVID-19, I'm out of the car, and you put this hotshot in who might be the next big thing. I think Lewis is probably more secure than that, and he would understand why Mercedes did that, but you could understand, I guess, a human reaction maybe if he didn't. I'm not saying he did or he didn't, I'm just thinking it's something you might want to reflect on. And he might be reflecting on. But is he going to be able to do Abu Dhabi? Well, it depends on when he feels better. I mean, there are various rules that say that if you get COVID-19 in Bahrain, you need to return 4 continuous or subsequent or consecutive, that's the word I was looking for, JD. You were rather obsessed with that cherry picker, unnecessarily. I'm not quite sure why. Why was that? You need to return 4 negative tests. We assume, although this hasn't really been confirmed by anybody, on 4 consecutive days. Not like you can test, you know, do 4 tests in a row on the same afternoon session, and then all 4 of them have to be negative. We assume it's 4 consecutive tests on 4 consecutive days. Get 4 negative results, and then you're allowed to fly to Abu Dhabi. But no one seems to be thinking about that, talking about that at the moment. All the talk seems to be, we need to wait until Lewis is better, until he feels better, until he's got rid of the symptoms, whatever they are, we don't know. And he actually is ready to go and feel better. So that is the limiting factor, it seems. But I would suggest it's unlikely that he'll be doing Abu Dhabi, if not impossible. Nothing's impossible. He could be feeling better tomorrow, Sunday. He could be feeling better on Monday and then get tested negative on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, and then fly in for Saturday and Sunday in Abu Dhabi, or even free practice 2 or 3. It's impossible to know. So all we can do is wish him well. Right, let's move on from the COVID stuff. And they've redone the podium here, and I think it looks rather marvellous with the old sponsors' boxes. And not many times you get the sort of product physically manifested of the sponsor on the podium. Kind of expect a man to come in with a forklift truck and say, "Hello, got your parcels here, parcel delivery," or a woman, of course. But there you go. That's the obviously the logistics partner on the podium, and we can do all of the teams. And you can see car number 63, because while it was Valtteri Bottas on pole, you could say that George Russell stole the show. We haven't done why did Mercedes not choose Stoffel Vandoorne, so I'll do that after. But why don't I tell you what happened with George Russell first of all. He's second on the grid, and good recovery from pre-practice 3, which wasn't good for George Russell, so really turned it around, and just about missed off. So he saved the magic lap until last, and he just missed pole position by 0.026 of a second, so 26,000th of a second off Valtteri Bottas. Very, very good lap, and he saved the best till last, did George Russell. As for Valtteri Bottas, car number 77, just to the right. Phew, only just, and showed that young George what for. He messed up his last lap in Q3, but the first one still counted, and it was good enough for pole position. Valtteri Bottas, of course, with a great chance to win the race, with his 16th pole position, as I said, and I think it's second in Bahrain, so that is really good. Why didn't they choose Stoffel Vandoorne, Mercedes? Well, the team say it's because they had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday to try and extricate George Russell from his Williams contract, and they had the opportunity to do it. Had Lewis told them on Wednesday that he couldn't drive, they would have just not had the time to get George Russell out of his Williams contract, and they would have put Stoffel Vandoorne, who was available here, came out after the Formula E test, straight into the car. But because they had the luxury of the time, they could put him in. I'm not sure if that really stands up, because really the intention would have been the same. It's like, oh well, oh dear, we don't have the time, so we'll put Stoffel in the car. But clearly their first desire is to try out George Russell. Do they think that Stoffel Vandoorne has had his time in Formula One? Well, do they think he's not good enough? And that George Russell is better, and they want the best driver in the car that they can get? Well, Formula One teams always think that they want the best driver in the car that they can get. Surely that's what they do. Does Stoffel Vandoorne deserve another chance in Formula One? Yeah, I think you'd probably say that he does. Fernando Alonso kind of destroyed his career at McLaren, and he's better than what he showed at McLaren, isn't he? But will he get another chance now? He's been rather embarrassingly dropped from even being a reserve by Mercedes. I'm not sure. So maybe he'll consider that he wants to focus on Formula E from now on, where he's doing very well. So well done to Stoffel, but bad luck that you didn't get the reserve drive. That's why they didn't choose Stoffel Vandoorne. Right, shall we move down, JD? We've done enough about Mercedes, but that's very close. Very close. George Russell so close at P2, Valtteri Bottas P1. Now, Charles Leclerc, great effort by Charles Leclerc to be P2 at the time in Q3. He dropped down to P4 and stayed there. So brilliant lap. He said he couldn't do better than that. Got out of the car, lit up a cheroot and said, right, beat that, everybody. Well, no, he didn't. He ran out of tyres. But in any case, that was a great effort, and that means P4. Yes, he was saying afterwards that he'll probably go backwards in the race from there, but still, you've got to do the qualifying first in order to show what you can do in the race. So best of luck to Charles Leclerc, because that is a great lap which start the Sakhir Grand Prix. Charles' teammate Sebastian Vettel, only 13th, not great, out in Q2. Really not happy with the car, just couldn't get together. Is using an old power unit now after his Saturday power unit, the one that's the one that was full of life, that was meant to do the race today and the race in Abu Dhabi. They saw a problem on the telemetry as they're just loading a spare floor into the packing cases there. And they saw a problem on the telemetry with that and had to change it in between FP3, free practice 3 and qualifying 1. So it's clearly an older engine. Well, it is an older engine that Vettel's using. Is it down on power? Only Ferrari know, and they're not really telling us. But you could probably take a guess that it is, because old ones tend to do it. Seb has given an interview to a newspaper. It's quite interesting. It's probably out there on the internet, saying that he was disappointed in Mattia Binotto in suddenly effectively sacking him from the team over the winter. He thought it was different. They went into Christmas saying, yeah, we're going to talk about a new contract. Came out of COVID in March. And actually, he said, no, I've had enough, really. We don't want you anymore. So that's what was disappointing for Seb. But he's looking forward to being in green. So it seems like Aston Martin will indeed be liveried up in British racing green next year. He said part of his heart will always be red, because he'll miss the people at Ferrari, will Sebastian Vettel. By the way, the helmet auction is still live. I think it goes live, it went live on the 3rd until the 10th. So if you fancy winning the rainbow helmet of Sebastian Vettel, the only helmet of Ferrari that he'll ever auction off, and it's for some great children's charities across the world, then go to sebastianvettel.com or sebastianvettel.de and bid your best price for some amazing memorabilia. Right, Max Verstappen, you're way ahead of me, JD. He set the car up. Well, Red Bull have really set the car up with a little bit more wing for the race, so that's hopefully going to be good for them. And it was P3 for Max Verstappen, P12 for Alex Albon, not great. So close for Max Verstappen, was running P1 momentarily, but pipped to P3 by the Mercedes by 0.056, 556 thousandths of a second. Incredible by both Mercs. But he is going to be racy tomorrow, starting from the clean side of the grid, which is this side here on the left-hand side. Does it look particularly clean to you compared to the other one? No, it actually looks a bit more sort of tyre scuffed and marked as people have been bottoming out and the skid blocks have been hitting on these little bumps as the paint goes over. That's why you can see these little brown marks where they, these tiny little bumps where they hit. But, well, it all feels grippy to me. I wouldn't really know underneath the foot which one's grippy and which one's not. But Max Verstappen is starting from this left-hand side, right behind Valtteri Bottas, and he thinks that's a good place to start the race. We'll see what happens. Disappointing for Alex Albon, less than a tenth of a second. He made it out of Q1, so 0.08 of a second. He made it out, he just scraped out of Q1, and then didn't get much better than that. He was out in Q2. It's very close, but he said he couldn't go much quicker than that. So, yeah, it's a difficult weekend for Alex Albon, coming off the back of a podium, inherited podium, you'd have to say, from Sergio Perez in Bahrain 1. So, well, he'll do well to get on the podium from there, but strange things have happened. So best of luck to Alex Albon. What's going on in the engine situation with Red Bull? They want to have their cake and eat it. They want an engine freeze for every engine beyond 2021, so from 2022 until the new engines come in 2025. But they only want that freeze after everybody's had equalised out their performance. Good luck with that. Mercedes is saying no, doesn't work like that, Formula One. Renault is saying, well, maybe, but I'm not sure about it. And Ferrari is saying, yes, please, because they also think they want to equalise their engine performance before they freeze it at hopefully the same level. How they're going to equalise the performance, I don't know. What, share everyone's info with them? Or, I don't know, boost pressure? Don't know how they're thinking that they'll do it, but it looks like it's not going to happen unless the FIA goes against the wishes of the teams like Mercedes in some sort of weird power struggle and says, no, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have engine equalisation, and then we're going to freeze in that equalisation so that everyone's more or less got the same power. Would they do that? Well, that's what Red Bull are counting on. Otherwise, there's going to be a bit of a schmozzle. The football's on in the McLaren garage. That looks like Villa, or is it West Ham? I never know. Who's the purple and trunks? Purple with the blue-green sleeves, JD, you know about this kind of thing. Is that Villa or West Ham? See, I know about it, enough about it. But in any case, there's a flaw. You see, at least I know that's a flaw of a Formula One car. And not a great day for McLaren. No wonder they need a bit of footy to cheer them up on a Saturday afternoon, because the best possible result was 8th, they thought, with Carlos Sainz, nicely through into Q3, really saving the day, pretty solid. The qualifying didn't work as they planned, said Carlos Sainz, but P8 as good as they can get. Lando Norris, another messy qualifying for him, carrying on from last week, which was another messy qualifying. He was very disappointed. He was the lead driver in Q2, first on the road, and felt they went too early because he had to go slowly or keep up the pace on his. He had to compromise his lap, I think, on the out lap, and he wasn't very happy with the team. He wasn't really happy with himself because he made 2 mistakes on his hot lap and the second lap in, so he couldn't get them in, and only 15th on the grid for Lando Norris. There's his car in pieces, but they'll hope for a better race tomorrow as they try and keep that P3 in the constructors. Daniel Ricciardo, P7, and also a little bit disappointed because they let Danny Kvyat in with the AlphaTauri in for P6. Disappointed, and good stuff for Ricciardo essentially, but beaten by Danny Kvyat by 0.05 of a second to P7. It was okay, I suppose, but he thought he could have done a little bit better. Esteban Ocon was very disappointed to be punted out of qualifying in Q2, just as it seemed we were seeing the old Esteban Ocon and his pace really coming back into it. He goes and slightly disappoints at Sakhir Bahrain 2 today. So it's a bit of a shame for him. Only 11th, but He was 0.05 of a second off getting into Q3. A little bit disappointing will be the Frenchman. Fernando Alonso, I loved his justification, didn't you, in the beginning of our show qualifying, saying, oh, I don't know what all the teams are worried about me getting into the, the FIA allowing me to do the young driver test. It's only one day, it's only in this year's car, and it's only little me, they've got, I'm not exactly going to be, up there in the championship. Do you know what? He might be. But there's a good reason why McLaren, why Racing Point, and even a lot of the other teams are worried about Fernando Alonso getting a head start on everybody in 2021 testing, because he's that good and he'll use it to great effect, to a competitive advantage. So nice try, Fernando, coming all the innocent. It's just me. I'm going to be in the midfield. I'll be nowhere. Don't worry about me. It's only a day's test. Ha! Yeah, right. That's a good advantage that Alonso's got, managing to get into the young driver test. So Renault have pulled an absolute blinder politically with the FIA for allowing Fernando Alonso to do the young driver test. Don't know how they've done it. Luca De Meo, the new CEO, might have used his influence, but they say they support young drivers, so why shouldn't they be allowed to sort of muddle the rules with a young driver test and put Fernando Alonso, two-time world champion, almost 40 years old, in there? Not exactly young. Pretty good result from AlphaTauri today. As I said, Daniel Kvyat turned out to beat Pierre Gasly. Gasly had been strong all weekend, got into Q3 by just 0.05 of a second from Esteban Ocon, but Kvyat was faster in Q2 by a tenth into Q2, and Danny Kvyat was stronger again. P6, whereas Gasly was 0.2 behind and a little bit disappointed. But this is all very good for Danny Kvyat being strong and everything towards the end of the season, but it looks like Yuki Tsunoda is going to get the points that he needs on his super license by finishing in the top 4 in Formula 2, and therefore get next year's second seat alongside Pierre Gasly at AlphaTauri, because Tsunoda won the first F2 race here yesterday. Spoiler alert if you haven't watched it yet. Sorry about that. Right, the Pink Panthers, what's going on there? Well, it wasn't a particularly good qualifying for Lance Stroll, because they think he picked up a bit of floor damage. Lost some rear loading on the back of the car, he said, and half a second behind Sergio Perez. Lance Stroll only 10th, but Sergio Perez, with an old power unit after his MG UK blew up in Bahrain 1, thinks that he's down on power from Mercedes, although can't put a figure on exactly how much. Absolutely brilliant, very strong Q2 and into Q3 for Sergio Perez. Great lap up to P5. Fantastic job, Checo Perez, still showing what he can do to the likes of Red Bull Racing when Alex Albon had a bad day. Would have had, of course, a podium had that MG UK not gone bad in Bahrain 1. But who will beat the lights off tomorrow between the Racing Points? Tried to do a link with that, JD. It's best I come up with. Sorry. Alfa Romeo Sauber and Giovinazzi better than Kimi Raikkonen again today. Wow, that's another flaw. What's going on with all these flaws being packed off back to Hinwil or going straight to Abu Dhabi? Don't know. Bit strange. A lot going on. Maybe because they can't change them now, so you might as well pack them off back to the factory. That'll be it. But Giovinazzi was great actually today into Q2 and just behind Sebastian Vettel for 14th, so not bad at all. Kimi Raikkonen picked the well, I'll go for no traffic in Q1. It was a good idea, but he didn't get the best of the track. It didn't really work out. The lap wasn't good enough for anything better than P19. In front of the only person he was in front of was Pietro Fittipaldi, who's going to take a massive grid penalty for all the power unit changes that they have to do to that car after Romain Grosjean's accident. So that wasn't very good. Oops, I've gone and told you what happened to Pietro Fittipaldi now. He has to take an engine penalty because they need to change all the power unit elements after the car that he's taken over from Romain Grosjean's accident. Obviously, they had to change it. Everyone clear on that? Good. All right, so that's why Pietro Fittipaldi, with a engine penalty, is last and 20th, but a good job so far. Hasn't crashed the car and has been very, very solid in his Grand Prix debut. And a pretty good session for Kevin Magnussen as well. P16, good effort, his engineers told him. Just missed out by 0.08 of a second, 0.08 of a second to Alex Albon for 15th and getting out of Q1, but couldn't do it. So he was out in Q1, but only just from Alex Albon. 16th on the grid, Kevin Magnussen. But what about the what do we learn about the sort of final take-homes of the Romain Grosjean accident? Clearly, they're looking also not only about the fire investigation, but why it happened in the first place. And if Grosjean if Kvyat was in Grosjean's blind spot, then surely they've got to improve the mirrors or do something, maybe one of those sort of lights that lights up, like on your fancy road car, if there's a car in your blind spot, to tell a driver, if he doesn't know already, that someone is there. And that was it. Grosjean moved across, didn't know Kvyat was there, and that's what speared him in the barrier. Very dangerous. Can they do anything to the mirrors to improve that blind spot and actually eradicate that blind spot? So that's something that needs to be raised, I think, as well as everything else, as well as the fact that the halo was absolutely brilliant, but then hurt him as he was sort of slightly pinned in between the side of the halo and the side of the barrier. So that needs to be looked at as well, as Grosjean was trying to get out of the car while it was ablaze, and effectively did. So yeah, one of the many things that needs to be looked at in the FIA investigation by the FIA safety department, but I'm sure they will do that. And finally, Williams, very solid. Now for the team leader, still rookie Nicholas Latifi. He's P17, and he was outpaced by Jack Aitken, the rookie, the George Russell replacement, on the first run in Q1. But Latifi got a good lap in at the end of Q1 to beat his new young teammate by a tenth or so. But a great effort by Jack Aitken to be only a tenth, as I say, behind his teammate and ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. So both Williams are ahead of Kimi Raikkonen for the Sakhir Grand Prix, which is, depending on when you're watching this, either tomorrow afternoon or this afternoon. So remember the time. It's a night race effectively here for us. So it's an 8 p.m. start local. What it means for you in the UK, and if you're around the world, then work it out from an 8 p.m. local time in Bahrain, is a 3:30 in the afternoon start. So a little bit later than usual. So 3:30 with the lights off at, well, half an hour for 5, just after 5, 10 past 5, race start. So that's it. The day belongs to Valtteri Bottas, but Mr. Saturday pushed him very close. George Russell just missing out on pole position. But Bottas did what he needed to do and grabbed pole, while everybody wishes Lewis Hamilton the best with his COVID-19 recovery. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.